This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind Mapco at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
In October 2019, Arlington, Texas was chosen to be the home of a new national museum, unlike any other. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a unique home of military history. The 100,000 square foot museum will house exhibits, archives, and artifacts relating to the 3,500 U.S. troops who have been awarded the medal, the nation's highest honor for valor in combat. The museum will have 31,000 square feet of galleries dedicated to U.S. troops who have received the award. The museum CEO, former Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, said the museum will focus on education as much as preservation. The building will have 5 areas dedicated to Medal of Honor winners from the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The main gallery will be located in a central plaza under a 25,000 square foot slab of steel, which will appear to be suspended in midair. It will be supported by 5 pillars. Black Rifle Coffee is a corporate sponsor of the museum, as are the Dallas Cowboys. The museum's board also includes over a dozen major corporations and 6 Medal of Honor recipients, including David Bellavia, Patrick Brady, and Britt Slabinski. Army Staff Sergeant Bellavia was awarded the medal for clearing an entire house by himself on November 10, 2004, as a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. He killed 4 enemy fighters and wounded a 5th in close quarters battle. Army Major General Brady flew and coordinated the evacuation of 51 seriously wounded men during a firefight in Vietnam in January 1968. Slabinski, a Navy SEAL chief and team leader, led a rescue team of SEALs during Operation Anaconda in Afghanistan in March 2002. Slabinski and his team flew to a mountaintop ambush site to rescue Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who had fallen from the back of a helicopter. Slabinski led the team through almost constant combat against an entrenched Taliban force. Along with the board members, former presidents Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama serve as honorary directors. The museum is expected to open to the public in late 2024.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome to the Misfit Nation Show presents the ToosDay Crue. Little technical glitch right there. We are back. We are bad. It's Tuesday. You are our main priority. We have Cagney in New Jersey. We have Lacey. I want to look like Hurt Locker Holland in there with his new glasses, his new look, his new do. He's going to pump you up. He's going to make you happy. He's going to make this audience go crazy tonight. And, of course, we have an awesome U.S. Navy veteran. But first, as always, we have yet another end of watch to announce. Patrolman James Crowley, the Chicago Police Department. End of watch, August 22nd, 2024. Keep all the officers that we've talked about over the last month plus in your thoughts and prayers along with their friends and family as they go through this tough time. And now, without further ado, I give you Cagney, I give you Lacey, I give you the ToosDay Crue.
Welcome. It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
How are you, sir?
I am good. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. Hanging out. Beautiful day. Just had dinner. We made some nice chicken parmesan.
Oh,
Now we're sitting here chatting.
That beats my frozen chimichanga and canned chili.
Not really. Chimichanga and canned chili sounds pretty damn good right now.
It was pretty tasty. Hey, Steve, guess what we're going to do tonight?
What are we going to do?
We're going to unlock success.
Are we? And
Yes,
how are we doing that?
We're going to have Mr. Kevin Brewer on here. He's a Navy veteran. He's a veteran of law enforcement, and he's been coaching. And he is going to teach us and teach our listeners how to unlock success and basically unlock our potential and do what we do better.
Should I put my reading glasses on so we match?
Don't make me take this off. I'll have to rip off my shirt and show you that big S on my chest, okay?
Oh, already then. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, we bring Kevin in. How are you, Kevin?
How you guys doing?
Doing all right. How are you doing this evening?
Doing good, man. Just finishing up the night. Just got done eating myself, so.
Good deal. Good deal. We kind of went over what you do. You're coaching, and that you was a Navy veteran in the intelligence community and some law enforcement. That's about all we went into. Why don't you start from wherever you want to start and take us up to this point in time right now and tell the guests about yourself.
Yeah, so just quick background. As I joined the Navy out of high school, went straight into boot camp out of a couple months out of high school. Went into the intelligence field within the Navy. Spent about 7 years doing that. My time, I started out in Hawaii doing sub duty, going out in subs here and there and doing missions coming back and just doing that throughout for the next couple of years. Came over here to Northern Virginia, ended up deploying again when I was supposed to be on shore. Ended up in Afghanistan for a year, which we'll get back to when I got back from that was where all my health issues started. But ever since I got out of the Navy, I've been doing government contracting in the intelligence community and now doing federal law enforcement support. And then now with Department of Justice proper as a government employee. So Along the way, I picked up this coaching habit, realized that I had a lot to give back to the community, and teach people how I overcame a lot of my health issues that we'll get into, and how to improve your mental clarity to be able to use that to build success.
All right. You say you're going to get into your health issues and basically how you overcame them and how you can help others through that.
Yep. Yeah. So when I got back from Afghanistan, on the way back, I had this like massive sinus infection, and it just would not go away. And while I was over there, they just didn't quite believe me. They never took x-rays and that. I mean, you were in the military, you know how it is. Like, here's some Motrin, suck it up, buttercup, you know. So it's I had it for about 6 months. I took a couple rounds of the Z-Packs, and it just wasn't going away. So they're like, well, the Z-Pack didn't work, therefore it's not a sinus infection, it's something else. So just deal with it. So I was doing the Vicks Vapor Rub, but it wasn't the rub, it was the spray. I was doing that so much, I didn't know that it had like Sudafed or anything like that in there. And I was on the plane back, I was doing it like every 5-10 minutes, doing some squats. It ended up like causing a lot of heart rate issues and basically gave myself almost a heart attack on the plane on the way back. So I got back, finally got to the doctor, realized I had a couple hernias. I also had a sinus infection. My whole left side was completely clogged up. My right side was half clogged up. So they put me on some antibiotics, some really strong antibiotics. What I did not know at that time is that those antibiotics cause ligament damage or joint ligament and tendon damage. So as I was healing from that, sidetrack, on my way back from Afghanistan, I also got like dogged sick, probably I think it was like swine flu or something like that on the way back. I was like really bad off in multiple ways. I started to get my health back. I was starting to get back into the gym. I had hernia surgery, all this stuff. And I did some move where I was pulling the bar up and I felt like something pop in my neck. So I was like, of course, I was in my early 20s. So, you're invincible. It's like, oh, all right, well, I can't lift weights anymore today because that kind of hurt. So, I'll do the next best thing. I'll go play basketball for a couple hours. Smart move, right? So I got through that day. I went to bed that night, and I just kept waking up. It kept waking me up. My heart just kept I kept feeling like something in my chest, and I was like, man, this kind of feels weird. And from that point on, it just kept getting progressively worse. So what happened is I was just getting pain in my chest, in my back, up to my neck. I had basically every symptom they tell you about for a heart attack. I was getting that. I was getting migraine. I started getting migraines shortly after that. Started having lower back pain real bad. And all these little things kept coming up. And I was just like, I couldn't get past it. Eventually, my heart rate would just jump and stick in the 120s, 130s range while I'm just sitting still. Ended up getting hospitalized a couple of times because they couldn't get my heart rate to calm back down. So I was like, what in the hell is going on? And I was in and out of the hospital, obviously trying to figure this out for months, my last couple months in the military. And they just never could figure it out. And because I came back from Afghanistan and shortly after that all these things happened, naturally, it was quote unquote PTSD. So they just kind of wrote me off. They just really wrote me off and didn't really help me out. It was so bad that as I got hospitalized, my heart rate was stuck at like 120. They would say they weren't even in the room and they knew when I would stand up because it'd go from 120 sitting down to 160 standing up. And they ended up keeping me overnight. And I was in the cardiac ward. My primary doctor was the on-call doctor that night. So I thought that was a good thing, but apparently it was not a good thing because he just said that, oh, this is a repetitive thing. He keeps coming in for these problems, so it must be PTSD. And he pegged me as that. So then the cardiac people the cardiologist stopped treating me. My wife, they didn't know who she was. She walked up on them, was outside my room that night or that morning, the next morning, saying, we don't know what's going on with him, but we got to get him out of here. So they didn't even want to help me. And then they said that it must be anxiety, even though I was asleep and my heart rate was still over 100 beats a minute, and I was sleeping. So you tell me how that is anxiety. I'm not real sure how that is. So they kicked me out of there that morning, and they said, you got to go to psych, got to go do a psych eval because you have PTSD. They were convinced I had PTSD. They said it was set up. It was mandatory. I waiting for the call from the psych, and they said they never called me. So a couple of days later, I called them and said, hey, what's the deal? They said, no, I don't know. We never got a referral for you. So I had to refer myself to go talk to psych to say, hey, I don't have PTSD, but I need you to put this on my record so that I can get treatment help. So that went on for the rest of the time. So eventually I got out of the military, still having these issues, being hospitalized a couple of times. I left work in an ambulance once because my heart rate got stuck at 150, 160 while sitting at work. So all these things kept cropping up. So long story, kind of long. For the next 13 years, I dealt with this and progressively worse problems. I saw dozens and dozens of doctors. I was in and out of the ER constantly with basically every symptom they tell you about for a heart attack, stroke, all that stuff. I would have it every single day. I got to one point I stopped using my left arm because I realized as I was swinging my left arm, it would make it worse. So I just stopped using it. So then my shoulder locked up. So I had to go to physical therapy to unlock my shoulder. Just all these different things came up. Sorry, went to the VA, tried to get through that process. I saw my first pain management doctor through the VA. I was trying to explain all those different things that happened after I got back from Afghanistan. And she quickly kicked me out of the office and said, well, I don't think any of those things are connected, so stop talking about them. Sometimes we just can't figure out what's going on, and you just have to deal with it. It doesn't sound like it's affecting your life too much, so just put up with it. I said, well, I used to be able to play sports and pick up my kids, and now I can't do any of that. So you tell me how it doesn't affect my life, but you're right. I guess I'll get out of here. So again, just kept going, more and more doctors, kept fighting, kept getting told I just anxiety, PTSD, all that stuff. Well, they didn't know. I did come across a couple of doctors who started to believe me at least a little bit. And all private practice, I got out of the VA system for that and started going more private, started getting some help there, started doing some injections in my back, got sent over to a chiropractor, and that actually helped for quite a while until it didn't. And then about 2016, it got progressively worse. I ended up getting what's called tethered cord syndrome. So basically, every time I bent over, my spinal cord was getting pulled straight down, which would cause extreme pain from the waist down. So I could effectively get in and out of my car twice in a day. If I had to stop and get gas, I couldn't go anywhere else that day. So it was quite the time. I had to basically get to work, and I was kneeling on a chair backwards. I would alternate between kneeling on a chair and standing up. This was before I had a standing desk, a sit-stand desk. And thankfully, I was at a place where they were really accepting and helped me out. And they just kind of dealt with it. They would give me a room to go lay down sometimes, just go like decompress my legs and stuff. So they were really helpful. In that time period, I came across something else that sometimes leads to tethered cord, which will help later on in the story. But what I did ended up going through the surgery for tethered cord, got that released, and then started getting some relief again, started getting better for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden, it progressively started getting worse again. I had all kinds of neurologic issues. I started having lots of brain fog. I started getting to a point where if I look up, I would start becoming effectively paralyzed. If I looked to the right too many times, I started getting flu-like symptoms, and I'd be sick for a couple of days. All kinds of weird shit, right? None of it made any sense. I knew my heart rate would start jumping. I started having panic attacks every single day. I would have this point where my left hamstring and lower back would get really, really painful and tight, which would lead then to it, oddly enough, increase the heart rate. It would stick. So I was using ice and heat to calm that down. And I know it didn't make sense. Doctors didn't believe me, but I would get an ice pack and I would show them every time that it worked. I don't know why it worked, but it did. So I was finding all these ways to kind of get around it. I was driving to work on 2 ice packs, a heating pad, and a TENS unit. If you know what those are, the travel stim. Yeah. So I had a TENS unit, a heating pad plugged in, and 2 of the Yeti ice packs that last for several hours, which, by the way, if you're ever looking for ice packs, the Yeti ice packs are really good.
Okay.
So I got to a point in 2019 where it was getting so bad that I could barely sit. I was getting to work and I was having, by the time I got to work, I would get into such a big panic attack. I really couldn't stay. I was getting ready to go on a flight to Arkansas to my sister-in-law's house for Thanksgiving that in November in 2019, right before the pandemic. And I sat on the plane and I had a panic attack on the plane before they closed the doors. I said, I can't do this. And I literally walked off the plane. My bags went to Arkansas and I went home. That was kind of the turning point for me where I started getting progressively worse psychologically. And I started to get to a point where I was basically thought I was having another heart attack in my closet. And I just laid there and I said, fuck it. I am not going to the hospital. I'm just going to die here. Whatever, it's going to happen. And I said, I'm done. I'm just done. And in that moment, for whatever reason, and I'm not that I'm against anti-religion or anything like that, but I'm not a very religious person. But I randomly just said, hey, God, if you somehow pull me through this, I will figure this out and I will help other people once I figure this out. And I ended up finding this guy, Brian Kane, does mental performance for a lot of this athletes and stuff online. Started going through some of his stuff. I found Jocko Willink and David Goggins, a lot of motivational type stuff. And I just started working on my mindset and my mentality. Meanwhile, in this time, I had gained significant weight. I was over 240 pounds. I was just not in a good place. And I was always very athletic prior to this. So I said, all right, with my mindset, well, I can't work out. It's not in the cards right now. I don't know what's wrong with me physically. I can't do it. I used to be able to, but I have to lose weight. So I started working on my nutrition and my dietary habits. I slowly started getting that. I got down to 215 pounds just by modifying how much I was eating. I'm just using my mindset and my brain to be able to modify that and understand my habits. Then I started getting to some of the actual dietary stuff, like this thing called the plant paradox and a couple other like different things. So I ended up losing a bunch of weight, got down to 153 pounds with just dietary changes alone. I couldn't work out. I could barely walk 1,000 steps a day. So I wasn't starving myself. I wasn't like going hungry like that. And this was all done just using my mind and my mindset, my habits, just getting that under control, understanding what I had control over and what I didn't, and just focusing on that. In the meantime, or around that time was when COVID happened. So again, I was having so much trouble getting to work, and eventually, because we didn't exactly know what was going on with me, I was actually on multiple anti-rheumatic drugs, so like stuff like arthritis and like that. And of course, I don't know if you remember when COVID first happened, anybody who was on kind of like arthritic type drugs was basically told to stay home because they didn't know what was going on and stuff. I say it's actually thankful at that point that I was on those things because I was able to stay home and just rest and relax and kind of just start to focus on figuring out what's going on with me. So although I don't have any medical training per se, I am a trained analyst. So I said, look, these doctors will not listen to me. And in fact, around this time, I actually had an argument with the top neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins. And I proved to him that I had this thing called Chiari malformation, which is what I was talking about with the tethered cord. There's this thing called Chiari malformation where the bottom part of your brain comes through the skull just a little bit and can cause some problems. He was saying I didn't have this. And I said, okay, well, during this time, let me backtrack just a second. Actually, I got ahead of myself there. So during COVID, the beginning of COVID, I said, all right, I'm an analyst. I don't know what this MRI is telling me, but what I can do is I can look at it and say, what's different from what's online that says it's normal? So I just started going through my own MRIs, and I found that I had this Chiari malformation. I had this, so I got on with this Johns Hopkins guy, and I said, hey, I think I have this problem. I was doing a lot of research. A lot of these symptoms align up with this problem. what do you think? And he said, no, you don't have that. And I said, okay. As I pulled up my MRI, I pulled up what I did, my measurements. I said, well, where did I go wrong in this then? And he said, well, you didn't. You do kind of have it, but I don't think that's what's causing these problems. I said, well, so we can't investigate it? He said, no. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because it says that I could. And he said, no, we're not going to do anything with it. Go back to your neurologist. And I was like, well, if it's a mechanical issue and neurology can't do anything about it. He's like, yeah, that's right. I was like, so why would I go back to neurology? I don't know, but I'm not going to do anything. I was like, okay, great. So I kept going. I kept digging. I saw something else in my MRI. It was called a pannus, which is like a soft tissue overgrowth right around the C2 vertebrae. So I got on, of all places, I went on a Reddit subreddit called Ask Docs. And I posted the picture on there and I said, hey, I found this in my MRI. Can anybody tell me what this is? And I had one of the doctors chimed in and said, hey, I think it's this. You should ask I think it's this pannus. You should ask or ask a rheumatologist about it. So next time I went to my rheumatology appointment, I asked him, I said, hey, this guy said I might have this pannus. This is what it looks like in the MRI. What do you think? He said, I don't know how to read an MRI. You should go take that to somewhere else. I go, I'm not asking you to read the MRI. I just told you what it was. Like, can we look into that? But I don't know what that is. I was like, okay, well, then I guess you're not my doctor either. So again, I'm now in a weird place. Well, weirdly enough, again, I started coming across this article in Facebook that was in this Chiari malformation kind of group talking about people who have Chiari malformation and a pannus were treated for a cervical instability. When they were treated for the cervical instability, it cleared up both problems. So I said, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I have that. And that was on the list of things that it could be if it's not the Chiari. So I said, okay. I found a doctor in Colorado, Dr. Chris Centeno, out of the Centeno Schultz Clinic, who does stem cell therapy for this, what they call cranial cervical instability. So basically your skull and your neck are not tight. The ligaments holding the skull to the neck are too loose. So he takes bone marrows out of your hip, puts it back in there and shores it up. So I said, all right, I got to get there. I got to talk to this guy. So that's what I did. I ended up getting over there, finding out that's what I have. I've done several treatments with him, and now I am doing Spartan races and doing all the stuff that I really wanted to do this whole time, but couldn't. And again, I did all this just by working on my mindset and started, all right, what the hell can I control? And let me put my time and attention into that. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stick on that. I don't care what anybody says. I know me. I know I don't have it. I have anxiety. I have panic attacks, but it's not what's causing these things. Whatever's there is causing that. I just kept digging, just kept being my own advocate, saying, no, you're wrong. I don't care what your degree says. I know me better than you do. And if you don't want to help me, then I will go find the next person who will. And that's what I did. And now, again, here I am.
Now, have you called out those doctors and say, hey, look, this is what's being done now, and you overlooked that, or you didn't do a damn thing about it? Or did you just move on from that?
Nope,
because you're getting better.
Yeah.
Just moved on.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I would have went and I would have had my hand around somebody's neck, and they would have been looking really close at things by getting choked. But that's just me. I wouldn't have dropped that.
I'd have gave some really messed up Yelp reviews.
I did go on Ask Docs, or not the Ask a couple like the or like ZocDoc or those places that review doctors, and I did put a couple reviews in a couple places. One in particular, there was one neurosurgeon I did see before the Johns Hopkins thing, and oddly enough, three people actually recommended him to me. So I was very surprised when I had this interaction with him. But I was in the office and I could hear him in the room behind me talking to the other patient. I know he hadn't looked at my MRIs because I just gave them there that morning. He was like 20 minutes late to my appointment. He walked straight in from the nurse's station. I know he hadn't looked at anything. And he goes, oh, you're in the military? He's like, you must be PTSD. And I was like, what the hell? Like, we haven't even talked yet. So my wife went off on him. She snapped on him. And I was like, I don't even know what to say. Like, it's not even... Clearly, you're not.
You just automatically labeled. Okay.
Yeah.
That's your problem. Go away.
Yep.
Haven't asked him.
And it's funny. I try to tell him, I was like, look, you say that, but I've been to psychology and a psychiatrist, and she said, no, you don't have that. You need to go get a second opinion. So,
wow.
Well, like 5 years ago, I went to a doctor. Now I've had knee problems since I'm 17. I'm 55. So when I was 50, I went to the doctor, and they took MRIs and did their thing. He's like, you have arthritis of like a 70-year-old. I'm like, well, maybe we should replace the knees. Oh, well, you're too young. You got to wait. If I do it now, I'll have to do it again in 5-6 years, and that's a waste of time. Okay, so I can be a cripple for the next 5-6 years and then wait to do it. That's what their mindset is. Okay, just leave it like it is. Keep doing what you're doing. I take a handful of Aleve every morning just so I can walk down the stairs sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's okay to them.
Yeah.
Because they won't have to redo the operation in 5 years. I'm like, where's my quality of life?
Yeah, and sadly, this is a lot of it's driven by insurance, which is why I ended up going. So the guy I see in Colorado is all out of pocket. So I pay for all that out of pocket, and it's not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a physical therapist that comes to my house that's all out of pocket too. I see him once a week, and he's really attuned to this kind of like odd kind of abnormality things, the nervous system kind of related things. So it's helped me dramatically, or significantly, I should say. And I had to get out of the insurance system because they wouldn't allow me to get treated for the things I needed to get treated for.
Yes. I've noticed that myself. We have a question here, and it's from Up Perisco 87. He wants to know, and you already said that you just changed your mindset, and he wants to know, what kept you going? How did you change your mindset? And, this is kind of what this is about, and, kudos to you for not ending it all, because that you could probably say that would have made everything a lot easier, and you didn't do that. And that's great. But what are some of the tools that you use to get you through some of that?
A lot of it started with just awareness of thought. So understanding what triggered me or what started the spiral downwards that would create these panic attacks. So just understanding that it was a panic attack to begin with, just going, okay, I just need to get down to a safe spot. So like sometimes it happened in the shower. I'd be taking a shower and all of a sudden my heart rate would just spike up. And as soon as I felt my heart rate or some pain in my chest, I'd be like, I'd immediately jump to, oh, fuck, I'm dying. I'm having a heart attack. I called 911 right now. I got to go. And I had to like catch myself and go, okay, wait a second. I've had this before. Is it worse than before? Where's the pain really? What is going on? Let me kneel down first and just catch my breath and see, does that make it better or worse? So I just really had to take that time to say, okay, let me take a deep breath first. See if this is something that's worse than before. If not, then it's probably the same thing. So let me get back control over my mind and say, okay, I can get through the pain part of it if I can get through the anxiety part of it. And I just started building on that. It's very hard at first, and it takes a long time, and it sucks. But the more you do it, the more you catch it, the easier it becomes to deal with. And then, of course, as you figure out actually what's going on, it becomes even easier. But in the meantime, when you don't know, I really just, like I said, had to catch myself going, okay, like consciously think, is this worse than last time that I lived through or not? And if I could honestly say it wasn't worse than last time, then I was like, well, I lived through that and it ended up being nothing. So it could be just probably the same thing. Let me give it 5 minutes.
Okay, but you live through it and you give it 5 minutes, but that's putting a strain. Your heart rate being that high, putting a strain on your heart. So eventually, you got to say no mas. You got to do something, because you're beating the hell out of yourself on the inside too.
Yeah, and so one of the things, and like I said, why the ice pack on my hip and stuff like that would help is because my psoas muscle, the muscle that goes is a muscle that goes from basically the middle of your back ish down to your hamstring. It attaches like goes through like your glute and attaches at your hamstring. It's basically one of the hip flexors, and it would just get so tight that it would effectively pulls on all the areas that create the parasympathetic nervous system, and it would just get stuck. And so I found that one, icing that would help, but then also I started like being able to push into my stomach. So I find all these little routines that like reset my body a little bit to get out of that mode and go, okay, well, if I can push on this and massage it a little bit, calm things down, I can get the heart rate down. If I can get the heart rate down, I can get the anxiety down. If I can get the anxiety down, then I can then take the time to start digging into these things more. Because if these doctors aren't going to help me, I can try to help myself. Because again, I have this analytical background. I can figure things out, and I'm too stupid to understand what the word no is. So I'll go find the next guy.
Got another question from Penelope on Google Voice. With your extensive background in the military, intelligence, and law enforcement communities, how have your experiences shaped your approach to leadership and coaching?
Actually, that's kind of what ended up leading me into doing it in the first place. I realized that all those things basically groom you to be a coach and a leader, because you have all this experience and this knowledge, and really what is a coaching and leadership is just really being able to take your worldview and convince somebody else to act towards it. For leadership, for coaching is I just have to help you understand that everything that you need, every answer you need is inside you already. You just don't have the skill to pull it out. The statue of David by Michelangelo.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's this, they interviewed him a long time ago, whatever, about how he saw that statue, since it was so different than anybody else who depicted David before. And I don't know if you know the story about that marble. Is it'd been worked on by multiple people, and several other artists said, "There's no way this marble sucks. It's a piece of shit. Like I can't do anything with it." And he said, I didn't create the statue of David. David was already in the marble. I just chipped away and made it show. So as a coach, that's what I have to do. I just have to help you chip away all the crap that you've learned up to this point. It's not true. It's not accurate, and help you understand that if you've learned it, you can unlearn it. And then you start seeing that, oh, it was just a pattern that I've lived through. It's a blueprint. And then you can then shift that and go, oh, well, as this thing comes up, this is the choice I normally make. Well, now that I understand that that is a choice, I can go this route instead.
Okay. I've got two of my kids that are listening on this podcast, right? Y'all heard that, right? I'm talking to you, Delana and Tyler. Yeah, that's good. Now, in your coaching, say somebody wants coached. Do they just send you a short bio, or they just contact you? And got another question popped up. You've had a diverse career spanning multiple fields. What motivated you to transition into coaching, and what do you find most rewarding about helping others?
Again, so I think what's helped me transition to coaching and is mostly because of that promise I made in that closet. And it's like I know that I can help other people achieve way more than they ever believed. Because if I can, there's nothing special about me. So if I can go from basically laying on my couch, not being able to go from the couch to the fridge to running the Spartan trifecta in West Virginia a couple weeks ago, there's nothing that anybody else on this call couldn't do. Because there's absolutely nothing special about me. So it would be selfish of me to not try to help other people understand that their potential is only in their head, or I should say their lack of potential.
Not the great Alexander wants to know whose dog is that? What kind of dog is it that they've been hearing barking in the background?
Not mine.
It's not mine.
And I do not have a dog, so you're all going crazy or something.
Oh, it's a ghost dog.
That should be
So I want coached. How do I get in touch with you?
Yeah, so really just go to my Instagram is really where I do or work, spend the most time. So at Coach Kevin Brewer, just find me on there. I try to put out daily video and put out some other posts and stuff, and working to keep building that up. But yeah, just reach out to me on there and you start the conversation, get on a phone call and see if we're a good fit.
Okay. All right.
And that most of the time is the hardest part, starting the conversation. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people have the potential and they know it. It's just getting it out of here and throwing it out to everybody. And some people are afraid to talk. For a while, I was afraid to speak in crowds. I would give classes on computers, and I'd walk around in circles in the room looking at the ceiling. Oh, I'm going to hit this, do this, and I would know exactly what to wear on the computer. I would never look at anybody in the room. You know?
Yeah.
And I had to learn, focus, get down, and actually talk to people like we're doing here.
Yeah.
I was never able to do that. I had to get that out of my head. I had to work through that.
Yeah, a lot of it's limiting beliefs, things you've heard from the past that it's like you just kind of believe or whatever, and then, like a lot of people don't question what they quote unquote believe. They just hear it from parents, teachers, TV, whatever, media, all that stuff, and it's like you don't ever question where you heard it, and you just start to believe it. So a lot of it's just that. Another reason I found that people tend to wait. Or afraid to reach out for coaching is they're afraid somebody's going to push them too hard, too fast, something like that. And yes, you do need to get pushed to a certain extent, but ultimately you go at your own pace. I couldn't have gotten where I am in a month. It took me years.
But sometimes that pace, you really do need to get that push every once in a while. I've done leadership classes and it was, we went to these trust things, and I was, for the longest time, I've been afraid of heights. I was working, and a ladder went from under me, and I was hanging 30 feet in the air. Ever since then, I get up high and I panic.
Yeah.
And I got to be pushed to climb a pole and sit on top of the pole and get myself down. Because otherwise, I would never be able to do that.
Yeah.
You got to get that shove, and that helps. And it also makes you realize other things and how to work through other things as you do that. So
yeah.
So there is a pushing effect too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I don't want to misconstrue that. There is a push. There is I'll say added stress, but part of it is teaching you how to transform stress rather than you don't want to manage stress. You want to transform it. You want to use it because you go to the gym, you don't lift styrofoam weights, right? You need to use heavy weights, and that's putting stress on your muscles, and stress on your muscles makes them grow. Well, the same thing happens with our mind. We just forget that. So it's a balance of getting the right amount of stress and the right amount of pressure so that you don't, because you can't change everything overnight, but you also have to put the work into it. And you have to understand there's a strategy involved in it, and not just hey, it's just going to change and make this choice. I can say that it sounds easy, but ultimately you have to understand. Sometimes there's a deeper connection or meaning there that we're just overlooking.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Another question. Many veterans face challenges when transitioning to civilian life. What advice do you have for veterans who are struggling to find their purpose after leaving the military?
So finding your purpose, there's a lot of visualization stuff you can do to finding your purpose. Really kind of understanding what makes you come alive, So if you think of something and it brings you alive, it brings joy to you, right? Like there's probably something in there that brings you purpose. There's a technique that Leonardo da Vinci used. It's called the 100 questions too. You just basically take 45 minutes and just write out 100 questions. Any question, whatever comes to your mind. Within that, there will be patterns, right? Like, so you just look through it and you start seeing patterns. And usually those patterns are showing you what your passions are, kind of, and it starts building your purpose from that. And you can say, all right, what am I actually passionate about, and what I think can change the world?
I might try that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh. While we got this little break here, everybody remember to like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening on the recorded version of this, welcome to the show. Got Kevin Brewer here talking about coaching. Somebody comes to you for coaching, Kevin. How do you go about figuring out if they're a fit? Do you have just a set of questions that you ask, or is it basically an interview with the person, or how do you decide if it's going to be a fit?
Yeah, so some of an interview, kind of go back and forth and talk, see what they need help with. Are they willing to commit? That's kind of thing too. It's like, do you understand what kind of work you're going to have to put into this? Are you ready to invest in it financially? Are you ready to invest your time into it? Are you willing to take it serious? This guy I'm working with now, he called me up kind of short term and canceled on me for one day. And I just had to push back on him. I said, hey, look, if you're going to do this, you got to take it serious. No more canceling. You can't cancel on this. You got to commit to this. So whenever you put it on your calendar, that's it. You don't take everything else off your calendar. And he said, all right. And since then he's not missed. He's made fantastic strides. But again, because he had to just show up, so you have to be willing to commit and put that time to it, because it's actually very selfish of you to not develop yourself personally, because you can't help other people the best to your ability if you're not capable of helping yourself. So if you don't put time into developing yourself as a person, as a human being, and making yourself better, then you will not be the best version for the people around you. So that's very selfish of you.
Okay. It sounds like sage advice. I like that.
I say that because a lot of people, they say, well, I don't have time to do that because it's very selfish of me to invest in myself or invest this time for myself. It's like, well, no, it's actually quite the opposite. Because if you're not making yourself the best version of you, you're taking it away from the other people around you.
Okay. I like that.
Like I said, it's a bad example.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Kevin, we've discussed quite a bit of stuff. First of all, your story is amazing. That's I was in awe when you was talking about all the problems you were having, and not just the health problems, but the difficulty in getting doctors to believe you, or, like you said, actually give a shit and figure out what's wrong. Awesome story. And I'm thankful that you have turned it into something good. You're using that, you're helping other people. And, somebody comes to you, or, maybe we've got some listeners out there that are on the fence about contacting you. What's 3 things that you can give us that might push us over the edge to get us to contact you? What's the 3 most important things that you think that might make somebody decide they need a coach?
Yeah. So the first thing is awareness, right? So being aware of what's going on with your actions, reactions, things like that, understanding that, because if you can't understand when you start to go over the edge, you'll never be able to stop yourself from being going over the edge. So first and foremost is being aware of the fact that you need help and that something's going wrong. Second is progress, not perfection. Is you don't need to do everything perfect. You just need to start making progress. So another way of saying it is present, not perfect. And then the power of yet, the word yet. A lot of people talk down to themselves. They say, I'm not there. I can't do it. I can't do it. But if you just add that 3 letters, yet, right, at the end of that, I can't do that yet, right? It gives you hope for the future. And if you don't have hope, then you have nothing.
You have to go on with hope. You have to go on positive. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's great advice. Yet. Yes. Yeah. I'm not finished. I'm not finished yet.
That's right.
All right.
I can't do this yet. I will, though.
Yes. Yes. You got anything, Stephen?
No, sir. I'm good.
You're good?
Yeah. I've soaked in a lot tonight and a lot of good information.
Yes. Kevin, thank you for being here. Thank you for still being here. Wow.
The good
I don't know if I could have dealt with that. That's a lot. I want to say thank you to all of our listeners and watchers that are out there watching, listening tonight. We love you all. And Beandra says that you have motivated him today.
If I could help one person, that's worth it.
Hey, that's all we strive to do. If we can help one person, pull one person out of the darkness with each show, we have succeeded.
That's right.
Well, Kevin and Misfit Nation.
Nothing. You made it twofold tonight. One with your journey to get yourself healthy, and then the leadership part, because I think the first part was really, really struggling, and you fought through that like a friggin' demon. So that was good.
Yes. Well, hey, we're going to back on out of here. If you want to hang around the green room for just a few minutes while we close this out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this. It's great time.
Really enjoyed it. Misfit Nation, we love you, and we will see you next time.
Good night, everybody.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.